The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking fan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
all of them
are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. He's mad about you aliens. Ladies and gentlemen, the Helen Hunt by Paul Reiser, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Ow!
did I trigger the tumor?
I get that reference.
I was never the world's biggest fan of Saturday Night Live, but occasionally they did something that tickled me. And Mad About You Aliens with guest host Paul Reiser was, for some stupid reason, really funny to me.
Yeah, ow. That hurt. That's almost physically painful. Okay, then.
You're welcome.
Yeah, everyone. And speaking of Paul Reiser and the Aliens franchise, tonight we are reviewing Alien Romulus.
That's right, Robert.
Mark, before I cue you up for that, just half a second here.
Okay.
I was moderately optimistic about this movie.
You were now. Whatever would possess you to be optimistic.
I don't know.
Well, that's not the Robert Winfree I know.
On occasion, my optimism pokes its head above ground like a groundhog.
And tells you we're going to get 6 more weeks of winter. Nuclear winter.
It's there to then be hit. Like, hey, can I come up now? Can we be excited about things? Are things not going to suck? And then he goes back down underground, goes back to the family, big old cartoon knot on the top of his head going, yeah, we're staying down here for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But you called me on that a little bit. I think it was last week or so. I said I'm moderately optimistic about, cautiously optimistic about Romulus because I like Fede Álvarez. And you kind of pointed and laughed. And for once, Mark, you were the one pointing and laughing about optimism instead of me. And lo and behold, you were correct. But we are being joined now by Dorian Price. Dorian, how you doing?
Not too bad. Sorry I'm late, folks. Work ran a little long.
It happens.
Well, thank you for being here, Dorian. Always a pleasure.
No
and
problem.
You asked to be here, you mother. Anyway,
save it for the production channel.
Alien Romulus is a 2024 American science fiction horror film directed by Fede Álvarez, who co-wrote the screenplay with Rodo Sayagues. Produced by Scott Free Productions and Brandywine Productions, it is the 7th installment in the Alien franchise, set between the events of Alien 1979 and Aliens 1986. The film stars no one who we ever give a shit about. It follows a group of downtrodden young space colonists in pursuit of better life conditions who encounter hostile creatures. You may have heard of them. They're xenomorphs in this whole shebang, while scavenging a derelict space station. If I remember correctly, this was originally slated to be direct to Hulu, and then they realized that none of that makes money, and it doesn't attract people to your streaming service. And, common sense finally showed back up, and they retooled it for a Hollywood release. And we'll get to it when we get to the money, but it's doing quite well for itself. So it was occasionally when Hollywood makes the right call, and in this case it was the Walt Disney Company. It may say Fox, but it's really Walt Disney. They made the right move, and I want to applaud them for it. That being,
squirrel found a nut.
it
Woohoo.
does happen every once in a while. Speaking of finding nuts, hey Dorian,
Yes, sir.
What a segue.
I'm gonna ask you questions because you typically will pick up the right verbal cue and answer appropriately. So, are you ready to now disappoint me? Hey Dorian.
Always.
Good boy. You asked to be here. What is your relationship to the Aliens franchise? And I want to preface this by saying, as I do with all of these podcasts these days, we've been doing this for so goddamn long. Sean and I did an Aliens retrospective on Long Road to Ruin, which went from Alien to Alien Resurrection. We've never reviewed.
We speak the least about.
We've never reviewed Prometheus. We did a separate Long Road to Ruin for the 2 AVP movies and Predator, just to throw it out there. I did these in a series one January. And then Robert and I reviewed Alien Covenant when it came out. So really, woof indeed. I believe we've hit all the Alien movies with the exception of Prometheus. For whatever reason, that one never made it to stream. Before you answer, let's just because you just showed up. Mac Kettner is here, everyone. Hello, Mac.
I'm sorry I'm late, guys. I got a little set up and forgot where I was.
It's all right. It's okay. Fuck all day. All night. Sorry, I got lost for a moment. Anyway, verbal cue, take 2.
Radulich Network, everybody.
So now that you know the brief history of us reviewing these movies and that we are, in fact, experts on the subject matter, what is your relationship to the Alien franchise, sir?
I got to see the movie actually probably a lot younger than I should have, but I'd already wanted to be a movie director. I think I saw it when I was about 8, so it's been a little under 20 years since I saw it. But I fell in love with the storyline of kind of the haunted house in space. And then so immediately I the next day I went out and got Aliens. And actually I bought the rest of the movies because I was like, well, the first one's so great, there's no way that the other ones can suck. A youthful enthusiasm that gets so many people in these movies into trouble. But so I ended up loving Aliens. Again, James Cameron still fantastic, coming off of Terminator. Or kind of at the height of his powers. Got to 3 and went, well, this is kind of depressing. All right, well, I mean, it's a horror movie. And then got to 4 and went, what the flying fuck are we doing? Like going Scoob. Sorry, my voice broke there, so I decided to just go with it. But no, my relationship with the movies is that I do very much love them. Again, I have the Nostromo ball cap. That I actually personally got from for my birthday from another member of this network, Alexis. Actually got it for me for my birthday, and so my relationship with the franchise is I love it. It's ups and downs. Obviously, I've seen Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I was really worried about this one, but I'll tell you when we actually get to my review.
That's great. So, Mac, I was 3 years old when Alien 79 came out and wasn't watching horror movies at that point. So the very first one I ever saw was Aliens, James Cameron's Aliens. And I remember saying to my father, but father, I don't want to go see the horror movie with the aliens and the chest bursting in the goo. I don't want to get the goo, father. And I said, please take me to see Howard the Duck. And he said, shut up. And, shut up, sissy. That's how I was raised. So that's pretty much my history with this franchise.
Avoiding Howard the Duck, one of the few things your father did right.
You're not kidding.
Oh,
that's a whole separate conversation. So anyway,
how
about you? What's your familiarity with the franchise? Why are you here? Where are your pants?
We're not going to discuss my pants. Can you guys hear me? My rebound here is looking really bad.
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you just fine, though you're kind of doing stop motion animation.
Okay, well, let's just do the stop motion since it's really I'm here for the words.
That's perfect.
I saw Alien on the first day in El Paso, Texas, at Cielo Vista Mall, and people didn't think it was going to be much of anything. The crowd was pretty thin, and I didn't know what to think. That was probably the best way to see that movie. Is you go in thinking, okay, it's clearly a space movie. Gosh, it might be about an alien, and
Could be.
yeah. So I that's really all I needed. I just wanted to see what they were doing. Yeah. So, hey, I might have to do this on purpose. I like this stop motion stuff. I look like something of a
You're
Christmas
kind
special.
of like a disco ball, a human-sized disco
A little
ball.
bit, yeah.
You look like a drunk Max Headroom.
I'm also like 2 seconds behind. Okay, we're gonna get a lot of good pictures out of this. But that was my first exposure. I went in expecting nothing. I didn't know that strange actress Sigourney Weaver. It took me a week to learn how to pronounce that right. And I was floored. I really expected much more of a science fiction movie than a horror movie. I didn't realize how easily those two would blend. That was my first exposure to that kind of thing. But I limped out of that theater thinking, oh man, the world has changed.
This is Robert. If you'll remember, this is not a particularly successful franchise in that more of the movies are not great than they are great. I showed 79 to my son Jonas, who is 10, and he loved it because he's a good boy. And he understood what the movie was going for when I said it's a quiet movie, it uses tension really well, all of that. And a couple of years back, I showed him and Lily Aliens. That's what we started with because that's like you start with the second one, just skip 79. And you know, they were a little younger at the time, but they were just at that point getting into horror. I was showing them a lot of light horror stuff. And other than the first chest burst scene and some other stuff, they handled it really well. They didn't think it was too gross, and they ended up really enjoying it. 3 is a mixed bag, and I think people have started to much like a lot of stuff like in like the Phantom Menace. Years later, people go back, oh, this wasn't as bad as I remember, and some people think it's even worse.
Hang on, here's the only way you defend Alien 3.
Mm-hmm.
You watch the director's cut.
Okay.
Ooh.
Because the theatrical version of that is a giant mess.
Mm-hmm.
Only notable for an appropriately bleak-ish ending. Like that's the right mix of bleak and hope. Which it's weird to kind of contrast those two things, but you get both of them. I don't
hate Alien 3. I think it suffers from, I don't want to redo the whole Long Road to Ruin on this, but in very, very brief, I think when you don't have the expectation of Aliens 2 Electric Boogaloo, and you just enjoy the movie for what it is, it's actually not that bad of a movie. But people wanted more of what they got out of James Cameron's Aliens. I think also this thing suffered from development hell and all of that. I don't want to get
you could make a whole other, like, you write a book on the development of Alien 3 and all the ways that went sideways.
Yeah, that's right up there. The fan four stick for the story behind the movie is better than the movie.
By a mile.
You could say that the making of Alien 3 was a long road to ruin.
It was.
You could, Binky, you could.
But that's the only movie that I think David Fincher has ever made that he's come out and disowned. Like the theatrical version of that was not his vision of it.
No.
Then it kind of the franchise goes away for a little bit, and then we get Alien Resurrection, and oh my good grief, that movie is a. I don't dislike it. It's kind of a fever dream. Especially in terms of
great description. I like that.
Well, isn't that done by like Jean-Luc Besson, this wacky French guy?
No, it's not Besson, but it's the same guy who did Amelie.
That's it. That's right.
It's written by Joss Whedon.
That's where also it kind of falls apart because
stab through the heart.
Hang on, Whedon's sense of plot structure is fine. His dialogue is utterly out of place in this franchise.
Well, really, like the Alien Resurrection, him and the director were like super horny when they wrote it. Like they had and they were like, okay, who do you think the hottest girl in Hollywood is, bro? And like they were drunk too.
The The pitch is I want to do an alien.
Sigourney Weaver is the most hottest woman in Hollywood, in my opinion. And
I want to do an alien lesbian porn. Okay. I want to do an alien lesbian porn. Well, you can't. We have to make this a straight movie. You can make it a straight movie. I'm making lesbian porn. Oh boy.
Okay, sure. France can get everything, but for the rest of the world,
I was setting you up so much for that. I'm like, I hope he reads my mind.
It's like there's a French version of the movie that we've never seen. It's like
it's a lot of Sigourney Weaver and
dangerous aliens.
He was also trying to address immortality in a kind of a sideways attack, and he didn't do it very well. And it showed.
On drugs, maybe. Prometheus is a fine movie if you don't associate it with aliens, which is another thing. I think people hold a lot against Prometheus because like it was also misadvertised. Like Prometheus, now we're going to get all the answers for where the xenomorphs came from, and you got none of the answers. But you were standing there covered in goo, and you're like, why am I covered in goo?
If there's one thing I wish Prometheus had done differently, because I like Prometheus, believe it or not, I genuinely like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
There's there's a few problems, and one, it actually like lacks physical character, and it's kind of the first movie in that franchise that has that problem. The Nostromo has character. The colony, the colony that we go to in Aliens has character. Even the prison planet has a sense of character.
Let me throw in here. I think Prometheus would have worked better as it is as a series. Prometheus feels like somebody took a television series and like adapted it to film. Like, no, this needed to be stretched out over like 10 episodes.
And the other thing about it that I didn't care for, and this is a real minor nitpick, I don't hate the engineers as a concept. I don't even hate all the execution of it. I think it was a mistake to make one of them the space jockey. Like, there's something about the unexplainable in Alien that is what contributes to the fear of it, and explaining it away then kind of does by necessity remove that. But there's some really good stuff in Prometheus. I mean, the obvious one is poor Noomi Rapace having to get that thing pulled out of her stomach in the med pod.
That was a scene.
The self-abortion, I think, is the most horrifying thing about that movie.
Well, the machine that's only built for men for some reason.
Yeah.
Then we have
women don't ever have medical issues.
And then we have Alien Covenant, which the only thing I say about Alien Covenant is like Alien Covenant is an episode of the Alien anthology television series. And we never saw the rest of the episodes.
Mark, you blow. I'll do the fingering.
Perfect.
We're back to porn again. Okay.
That is the only line from that movie that most people remember is Michael Fassbender saying to himself, "You blow, I'll do the fingering."
And everybody went pantsless and sticky in the movie theater.
It's kind of the only line worth remembering from that movie.
So overall, and we'll do one more round of this, and then we'll get into the plot synopsis. I typically enjoy my viewing of an Alien movie. I can pick it apart. I've done enough of these reviews where, I can have long discussions about what's right with them, what's wrong with them, going all the way back to 79. I can deconstruct the fuck out of these movies. But I think by and large, as dumb as some of them were, as bad as some of them were, or as good as some of them were, I've enjoyed the series overall. I made the joke about Alien Covenant being kind of an episode of the Alien Anthology series because that's kind of where Romulus took me it's another episode of the Alien Anthology series. Where I don't think anyone knows what to do with these things. But this is a problem, I think, with the slasher genre in general, is we really don't know what to do with this, and we'll keep doing more of the same. But every time you do that, if enough time passes, you have new people in the audience who haven't seen the others, who will appreciate the novelty of it. And then for all of us old fuckers who have seen all of these going, we did this already. We did this already. Simpsons did it. So let me go to you, Mac, then Dorian, and then Robert can back clean up and go into the plot synopsis. Your overall impressions going into Romulus of the Aliens franchise overall.
Well, I didn't set myself up to expect anything from Romulus, but when I learned where it was in the timeline, I thought, okay, they want to go back to horror. We got so got so eloquent flying off into the explanation of everything and the engineers and the deep plots that we really lost the audience that we won over in the first film. They got really mad at us because we didn't spend enough time just scaring the shit out of them. So we're gonna go back to it. We're gonna go back to a situation where there's an alien or aliens creeping around an enclosed area, and our victims are everywhere. But we're gonna add to it the fact that most of that crowd has seen the first movie. They know what the alien can do, and the characters inside the movie can't. No. And I think that was a whole different level of scared, because they look over and they say, oh, God, that's an alien. And we're thinking, holy fuck, run for your lives. You'll never run fast enough to get away, but start running now. No. They're going to look. It's the classic, hey, what's behind this dark door? No. Do you want to know? But,
he behind the door. He behind the door.
The resurrection of wait a minute. I have to ask a rule of the room. Do we do any spoilers here?
Yes. Well, he's about to.
Okay.
He's about to do the plot synopsis. We spilled the hell out of
Well, I just didn't know if you're getting specific. The resurrection of Ash as Rook, kind of it. Yeah, I know it was tricky stuff. It was terrible CGI. I liked the fact that the android was the same model and drew nearly identical conclusions and knew everything the original one did, because there'd been a transmission from Ash and Ripley that they received. Ripley's still floating out in space. She's about halfway through her 50-year journey, floating around in space. But this guy draws the same exact conclusions. It's a perfect creature. He literally says the same things that Ash did. Now, if you're going to do that, tell somebody you found a chip on board the wreckage of the original ship, and you used it to rebuild all the androids, and that's how you got that. But it's too weird that he's identically the same. We even find him torn apart.
I didn't really get into the thing real quick because we still want to do the plot synopsis. But let me tell you, Mac, how I thought it was the same character. Go ahead, Dorian.
My view going into it when I saw the trailer was literally this. Oh, for God's sake. Because again, I love this franchise, and I'm always excited when Prometheus came out. And again, I like Prometheus, but when Prometheus came out, I was like, okay, it's been a hot minute. We did AVP, so it's been enough time. Let's take a swing at this again. And then that one, went different. And again, I think Prometheus would have been a better movie if it had not been connected to Alien, but that's not what we're asking right here. I saw the trailers and I went, okay, we're gonna go see it anyway. What the fuck? But
you're so jaded.
then I heard a lot of my friends, including Mac, when he finally got to see it, going, you're gonna like this. This is actually good. My only concern, and again, I'll get to this in the actual review, but I was a little bummed that they put it between Alien and Aliens, because it's like, well, then they all have to die. Because if they don't all die, then everything that was said by the company in Alien 2 is BS.
Right. It's Rogue One problem.
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to bring up Rogue One. It's like Rogue One still, for me, worked because we didn't know they were all going to die. They didn't say in New Hope, hey, everybody who got the Death Star plans was, obliterated and died horribly.
It's not like they were Bothans or anything.
Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
You're not going to make it.
Lady, all we rebels do here is die. Remember the A-team over there.
You see the guys with the plot armor? They're fine. The rest of us, we might as well be wearing red shirts.
Okay. Right. Carrie Fisher takes a shot in the arm and catches fire. She's fucking fine. Put her in a metal bikini. She'll be all right.
Yep.
But yeah, no.
We like those metal bikinis.
I had trepidation about it, but I still was excited. And, I actually just saw it before I just saw it this morning. So
he still blushed from it. How long ago, Dorian? Was it an hour, 2 hours?
2 hours.
He waited to the last freaking second to see this.
I didn't wait to the last freaking second. Work made me wait to the last freaking second.
Right. Oh, sure.
Look, he showed up to the podcast having seen the movie I asked him to. He's fine.
He's fine. Follow directions.
Yes, you get gold star.
Actually, that's a good point of view, because I've had 4 days to bake on it. You guys have seen it whenever you saw it, and he's still glowing from it. That's a good way to approach this.
All right, Robert, unless you got if you want to add to this sort of wrap up of the franchise and expectations, be my guest. If not, head into the plot synopsis.
Just real briefly, I think you're right, Mark, that even the bad entries into this franchise are kind of like they're only offensively bad if you really choose to care that deeply about some of the
Right.
minutia of what's going on. They're all still at least like half watchable.
Right.
And there's something to be said for that. I was somewhat optimistic about this movie because I like the work of Fede Álvarez in general, and taking this back to horror seems like an overdue trip back, especially as Max said, after we got really high concept sci-fi for the last two with mixed results. So that's kind of where I was going into it, and I saw it earlier today in a completely empty theater, which is the best way to watch movies in a theater, I think. If you've never been the only guy in a theater, it's the best. It
Oh no,
really is
I've
the
seen enough
best.
indie pictures the last few years. I'm constantly, it's like me and one other guy.
Yeah, it's really great. So as already established, our movie takes place between Alien and Aliens. It's a fair enough point in the timeline to try and explore around with. So fair, thumbs up there. We open with the alien from Alien that Ripley knocked out of the airlock. It is captured by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, floating out there in the vacuum of space like you do.
Yep.
And then we get the creepy choir that gets way too loud as we see it slowly peeled out of whatever thing it's in. Because we just need to throw a 2001: A Space Odyssey reference in here, I guess.
Well, it is one of the top 10 movies of all time. I mean,
I don't disagree. I'm just saying. We meet our group of body count pig hostages.
YA characters is what they are.
Red shirts, yeah.
We made our group of our cardboard cutouts are all living on the same planet together. This is a Weyland-Yutani colonization effort. There's a big mine there that most people work in. And it is every bit the dystopian hellscape you imagine this would be at this point in time. Our main two characters are Rain and Andy. Andy being a android, because we're not exactly clever here.
Andy the android. I laughed about that when I heard it said out loud.
But Rain is trying to get off-world. She's trying to have done enough work to get transferred to a farming planet where there's sunlight and blackjack and hookers and things are better. So, but on her way to get to the one...
Less than 30 minutes in, and we've already made the blackjack and hookers joke.
Cross it off your bingo card, everyone.
Like I say, if you got Radulich bingo, mark it off.
Okay. How about this one? I got a more obscure one for you then. So on her way to get to the wonderful land of Salisalu, where they never have problems, at least very few.
Waka.
Never a face hugger when you need one.
That is one of my favorite Dr. Seuss stories, by the way.
That is a good one, yeah.
She and Andy are kind of recruited by some friends of theirs, all young people who are just looking around this terrible existence that they're in and going, this kind of sucks. One of the precipitating incidents here is Rain has finally met her quota of whatever she's doing. And is like, okay, corporate overlords, dear HR department, I've reached my quota. Can I get my paid time off now?
I'm only 2 days from retirement.
And, the mid-level bureaucrat goes, we've upped the quota. No, your ass is going to the mines.
Yeah, let's make it worse.
Yeah. And so she's a little bit really down in the dumps. And friend of hers kind of grabs her and says, hey, can you bring your android? Because he's kind of necessary for something we want to do. Look, we picked up a signal. There's a Weyland-Yutani ship of some variety. It's orbiting over our planet right now. We can take off. We can get up there and we can steal stuff from it, preferably including a bunch of cryopods so that we can then jet off to, again, the wonderful land of Salisalu. And we just, need to grab a few things from there. Then we can jet off and you can go there and we can forge documents and you can be a farmer. And won't that be grand? And she goes, you know what? It's better than this. So, okay. And our group of happy idiots go up there, discover it's not a ship. It's a space station. And I'm glad someone didn't say it's not a moon.
Actually,
Because this is that kind of
right as
movie.
you were saying, I'm glad somebody said it. I was like, that's no moon. That's a space station.
This is that kind of movie, folks. They dock with it. They get looking around, and it is the Romulus and Remus research facility. They are looking into the xenomorph and all kinds of stuff they can do with it. So naturally, things have gone very poorly because nothing ever goes well with these creatures. So a couple of them, two of them are a resident Uber jerk, and the captain and Andy all go onto the ship. They start poking around. They find some cryopods, but they don't have enough fuel to actually complete the 9 light-year journey. So they're like, okay, but there's more of this fuel around. We can go find some more of it. So they start looking around. They go to the cryopod. They go to an area where there's a bunch of these tanks, and because things are being kept cold. And they start taking the fuel out, and it turns out these are things you want to keep cold. They have a bunch of face huggers in basically hibernated stasis. But once you take away the fuel, everything warms up and the face huggers come back to life. So the face huggers start swimming through the water because we must reference Alien Resurrection. This is technically our second reference to Alien Resurrection, the other one being that it's on a spaceship orbiting a planet because Resurrection. Others show up. Things go sideways. The face huggers make their big attack. They impregnate one of the people, and there's a bit of a... Along the way, we discover a broken android called Rook because Bishop was taken. And we have once again decided to break out the necromantic magics and ghoulishly puppeteer a dead person into a role. And the late Ian Holmes likeness is used to recapture the famous character, his version of Ash from the original Alien. And he also has, there's a bit of a subplot where the android has a new system updated. Now he cares more about the company than the people. So conflict arises there. But Andy looks at they get the face hugger off of the woman that it grabbed. And they look at it and go, we got to this pretty quickly, but I don't think the odds are in our favor that it didn't actually do what it wanted to do. We should probably just not with you right now. And this goes not well for the rest of the humans because humans are not good about this kind of thing. So she runs back to the ship where there's a pregnant girl and takes the Uber douche with her. Then, predictably, chest burster. Leads to an accident with the ship. It triggers a minor explosion on the space station, knocks everything out of orbit. Now the space station is on a faster collision course with the rings of the planet that it's orbiting, and that will go very badly. Think sandpaper on a very large scale. It ain't good. So now we only have 40 minutes because we must have a countdown in these movies to get out. Fortunately, their ship didn't break, so now we just have to get across this facility, crawling with face huggers. And we make that particular trek. On the other ship, there's a scene where the chest burster just leaks. Not the chest burster. It bursts out. It sheds skin. It goes into the little egg that apparently is necessary for it to gestate into the full xenomorph. It bleeds all over.
At all, by the way.
It bleeds all over Uber douche, who just stays under the slow drip of alien blood. Like, okay, man, if you want to die, I respect it, but there's better ways. Then it gets out along with, again, the pregnant lady. Around the same time, our other group has to walk through a group of face huggers, but apparently they hunt via thermal radiation, so like predators. Or sound. So if we just make the room the same temperature as our bodies, we'll be okay. Sure hope no one's running a fever, because 98.6 is an average, not everyone's specific. Eventually they get to where the other ship is, but they see that alien is, again, it's hatched and it's out and about, and it abducts the pregnant lady, and people get pissy because Andy doesn't open the door to try and save her because the alien's too close. And this whole time, Andy's also being slowly instructed to do what's best for the company. So we must go to the science lab and retrieve the black goo. The black goo from Prometheus and Covenant. because remember those?
Did
we
you
have the
miss
black
it,
goo
folks?
now.
Do you,
That was bad.
remember the black goo and when Charlize Theron ran in a straight line underneath a falling object?
Yes, I do. So we have to go get the goo, and we get an explanation of the goo. This is the primordial ooze. It is pure life, pure potential. It's a mess. But the goal is basically to continue experimenting with and refine this to where you can inject it into humans, and they will then become more resilient to the perils of colonization of space. Because humans are not really meant for that. We're fragile creatures in a lot of respects. And this is the goal, though, is to then turn us all into something else that will fix our problems. We'll fix all our problems. Profits will flow, much like the spice. And so Andy's carrying this, and he's going to take this back to give it to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, but he's also going to set his buddies up so that they can head off to the farming planet, and everything will be hunky-dory. So they now have to go.
This is an alien movie, so don't get happy.
Indeed.
Yeah, don't follow the hunky dory too far.
So they make a run for their ship, but they come across the area that the aliens have kind of turned into their hive, and they make the correct decision. They look at it and go, no, this is a bad idea. We should go around. Everyone agrees. This is a bad idea. We should go around.
Smartest people in a horror movie ever.
And they start to turn around. Like I actually appreciated this bit of writing. They do the smart thing until they hear the pregnant girl, who's the sister of our captain. They hear her down that hallway. And at this point, okay, I can't leave her. So he goes off and they all follow him. And they find her, and she's not yet been got by a face hugger for some reason. And things go really sideways here because a bunch of aliens show up. And they kill the captain, and Andy, who at different points in time is strong enough to stop these like hydraulic doors. In fact, at one point he stops a whole industrial elevator. He's standing on he just catches it, and he holds up an industrial size elevator. He's also got the durability of like a 1998 portable CD player, because if you hit him hard enough, he starts skipping and just twitches out on the ground.
Well done, Robert.
Smack
All
it
I could
again,
see.
it's broken.
Yeah, it's sad.
All I could see when he did that. So things go sideways. Andy starts glitching out. Our remaining two female characters start their ascent in the elevator, but Rain can't leave Andy behind, so she sends the other girl on up, and the other girl now who's been stabbed and is bleeding out, injects herself with the black goo because I really don't want to die, and this stuff will heal me. Even though we've only tested it on rats, and, we're not sure how this is going to go. But small probability of success is better than certainty of death. Fair enough. So Rain goes down and gets Andy, and we have to have our replication of the auto turret sequence from Aliens. So we get that in 0G with all the alien blood floating around, and long story short, they all get back on the ship. They basically tell Rook to piss off. They detach from the ship as the space station starts being ground into a fine paste against the road of the ice rings. And everything's looking okay, because these movies always look like everything's looking okay right before the last action set piece crops up.
Because we have to do the bit where she's in her underwear for the final sequence.
Of course.
Oh, come on. We want that.
I'm not saying we don't. Well,
okay.
I would have preferred a different girl in her underwear, but we'll get to it.
Margot Robbie.
Yeah, Margot Robbie in her underwear is fine. Or in a bathtub with suds. Explaining
economics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, little divergence there.
No. Now that we've done the segment that's going to annoy half the audience, let's move. We'll keep going.
That's our job. By God.
That's why I'm here, folks.
Everyone's about to take off. She's kind of plugged in Andy to the machine, so his systems will keep running as they travel to the farming planet where they can harvest grain in slow motion. Again, I'm sure they're just going to go harvest again. Slow motion grain harvesting is in their future because Zack Snyder farming videos.
Okay,
but
apparently
before
Capacity 8049 wants to say at Winfree MMA, you cooking, bro.
Thank you,
Robert.
sir. I appreciate it.
Robert doesn't know how to take a compliment, so I want to make sure of all the zillion comments we're getting right now. I put that one on the screen.
I really don't, so thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
But before we get to them taking off, there's a complication in the medical pod. So we pull out the pregnant girl, and all the evil DNA from the goop has gone into the baby, and now she gives birth to a horrible acid-filled egg. And the scene that I imagine is the one everyone is saying, oh, that was such a gross scene, I had to look away from it. I imagine this is the one they're talking about. Bunch of weak constitutioned people out there, I imagine.
Yeah, who wants to stare at that?
I've seen things. That's nothing. If you
I've seen
dabbled,
things you people wouldn't believe. Yes, I know.
My
that one.
13-year-old daughter took one look at that and go, and now I'm convinced more than ever before never to have children. Like, that's the correct answer, Lily.
just saying,
Yeah.
I've seen Audition and Inside, and if you've not seen what French extreme horror movies will do with a pregnant woman, this is nothing.
I was gonna say, then there's always Titan. Blah.
Or the
That's also
Serbian
true.
film.
Yes. Keep going.
Also
We're almost
true.
there. Almost there.
So this egg pops out of this poor woman, and out from it comes an engineer, because Prometheus. It's sort of mixed with a xenomorph a little bit here, but that's the bulk of what's going on there.
I was waiting for him to curl razor fingers so that he'd be Freddy Krueger.
And this horrifying, genuinely, like, if there's one bit of good creature design, I actually think this creature is appropriately creepy. So,
Oh yeah.
It needed to be Pinhead, so when it popped out, it's like the egg. You opened it, we came.
I would have popped for that.
Yeah, popping got done anyway. It's all right.
Hi,
Yeah.
So,
So get back to Uncle Touchy the alien. Go.
So yeah, our alien friend, our engineer friend here, takes care of Andy, murders its biological mother, because again, we must reference Alien Resurrection. Then it starts chasing rain all over the remains of this shuttle. She eventually outsmarts it, sucks it out into the vacuum of space. We get a jump scare. She eventually drops with every bit of cargo the ship has, climbs her way back into it, and is the last survivor of that ship, signing off because now we must reference Alien again. And she and her buddy head off to, again, the wonderful land of Solasaloo.
Right.
And I'm sure they don't die on the way to the farming planet.
Before I go to Dorian, then Mac, and then me and Robert to do our craft reviews, let me just say this. The thing you have to know about this movie is twofold. One, this is a soft remake of, in a lot of ways, Alien 79, but in the more dinosaurs way, where somebody looked at 79, saw the facehugger pop out of the egg and attach itself to Kane and go, that, but 5 zillion facehuggers. Again, more dinosaurs. Let's something that my son and I were talking about, and that's why I brought this up. I told him, he's 10. I told him this is a very quiet movie. It's a movie that forces you to pay attention to it. If you don't, you won't get it. So you can't be your usual Mystery Science Theater, 3000 do shtick the entire time. You actually have to shut the fuck up and watch the movie, which he did. He's a good boy. So I said, you can't make Alien 79 now. Nobody has the attention span for it. Thus, you get Alien Romulus, which is basically the same plot as 79, just on methamphetamines. The second thing you need to know about this movie is not only is it Alien 79, it's actually like Whitesnake's greatest hits. They,
Here we
go again on my own. Down the only road I've ever known.
The only xenomorphs we've ever known.
Okay, just hang on. For the record, though, Somebody is going to edit all the facehugger scenes with "fill you up" right to the top, and it's going to be the weirdest thing ever.
I just put that
Or
whole scene.
slide it in. Sorry, slide it in right to the top.
Right.
Yeah.
Face huggers jumping out of the water. All I can hear is "bad boys." And that's
Oh, we're going to hell for this one.
it is the greatest hits of the Alien franchise. Sigourney Weaver in her underwear. This, this from Resurrection. This from Covenant. This from Prometheus. Black Goo from Prometheus. It's Journey's greatest hits remastered.
Yeah.
I think if you can understand both of these things, one, you're watching a soft remake, but for modern ADHD riddled stupid audiences, and also the Alien's greatest hits. And just let go of your expectations beyond that. Yeah, somebody just wrote Jurassic Park, the Long Road to Ruin, where we did Jurassic Park is where I came up with the more dinosaurs thing, and wrote a song about it recently. Then I think you can have a good time at the cinema as such. Okay, so Dorian, you were here first, and you've been waiting the longest now. Go ahead and give us your craft review, sir.
Well, okay. As a filmmaker overall, I really enjoyed this film. I like the more return to practical effects, the using CGI to more cover the seams than to just, okay, actor, I want you to look over that way against this green screen.
Look at that green box. Look at that green box. Now look at that green box. Stop crying, Ewan McGregor. We're going to get through this.
Actually, with Natalie Portman during episode 2, where she's doing the run and jump obstacle course in episode 2, there's an outtake of her turning to George Lucas going, "This is a joke, right? Like, this is a prank because my birthday's coming up. I'm
being punked, right?"
And again, the sad part about it is that I don't know if George thinks he's joking or he's just that oblivious. He's just like, no, this is going to look really great when we put all the effects in. And she just kind of gives him this look like, oh, sweet Jesus Christ, no.
Well, I have said George is going to touch with the
What have I done? I signed with the dotted line.
So I guarantee you that's what it was.
Right. But yeah, the overall, just as a film itself, it's fantastic. And I will say this right now. If you're a fan of the franchise, the good, the bad, the indifferent, go see this movie. Go see it in theaters. Support your local theater. It is a good movie. The writing is solid. It's not perfect, but it's good. That being said, Chopacity 8049 says, seems like W2M keeping it real over here. 100%. Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, we're sci-fi keeping it real. Thank you. That's good.
Back at you, homie.
That sounds like something out of science fiction. You live on a spaceship, dear.
Kidneys.
But yeah, no, it's the biggest issue I had with it was I was like halfway through the movie, I went, hang on, I've been here before. And I was like, I've seen this, but and then I realized there's a lot of things that are like Alien 1979. But I was like, oh my God, the Alien franchise went Force Awakens.
Yep.
That's it. That's what hit me. It was like, wait, Force Awakens, because halfway through that, I was like, this is fucking New Hope. We've done this. We've been here and done this already.
Do you remember this, Dorian?
Right?
Do you remember?
Ask me what it means. But no, it's overall, I think the acting was fine. Andy made me laugh the entire time, and I think it was probably because, again, it's like, Andy the android, really? Because like there's a big thing on YouTube right now of taking any popular movie and like through AI turning it into this like 1950s Panavision style trailer.
My son was just telling me about this.
Yeah,
those are cool. Yeah, they're really cool.
They are interesting. Again, I think AI doesn't need to be used, but that's a whole nother podcast where I can bitch about that for an hour.
Yeah, we need a whole podcast for that.
Also, Mr. Radulich, on the subject of your son, I need to hang out with your son because I riff movies the same way.
Oh yeah, I want to. You come over to the new house when he's on a week that he's here. You guys can watch movies and drive me up the fucking wall. I'll be with my girlfriend drinking. Like,
why did I invite Dorian over here? I was joking.
We've been talking about Deadpool for 6 hours. I'm gonna throw myself out a window.
But no, it's they did up the one thing that I think they did well for a modern audience, because again, one of the reasons Force Awakens worked for a lot of people is the same reason that this movie will work for a lot of people, is it's bringing a new audience.
Yeah.
But it's not doing the exact same things. Like the first Alien movie is very much a slow burn. You know, it's kind of like Kubrick's The Shining. You got to be in it to win it to get through this movie, or you will fall asleep. What I think Romulus did perfectly in a horror context is they upped the suffering. And I'm sorry, Mac, I'm stealing that line directly from you.
They did.
He and I talked about it the other day. I wanted to know what he felt because, as Mr. Kettner will tell you, he's not a huge horror fan. But he's like, they upped the suffering on that. And I think that was good because it was able to still grab a younger audience. Because I had some people, again, around my age in there, they were like, oh, shit, And I grabbed one of them on the way out, like not actually grab, because I'd be in jail. Pull the green screen down.
Again.
Behind me. He's been in jail the entire time. That's why he was late. But I was like, hey, weird question. I do a podcast I'm going to be on in just a few minutes. And by the way, sir, I hope you and your girlfriend are watching. Hello, if you are, feel free to comment. But I was like, are you guys Alien movie fans? And they were both like, no, this is the first Alien movie we've seen. We kept meaning to see Prometheus and Covenant, and we just never got around to it. And then when this one dropped, we were in it. I was like, okay, can I pick your brain for a second? What did you think? If I were to tell you there's going to be another 4 movies we're going to make, would you go watch them? And they were like, yeah, this was that kind of slow, horror, kind of like A24 style horror. And I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, cool. And because I agreed. And I think, again, the use of CGI, to come back to this, was used sparingly enough that it didn't make me go, okay, this is, Aliens versus Transformers, which again, I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Versus RoboCop.
Versus the Terminator. Versus
Yes.
Act. But no, again, overall, I think it was a fantastic movie. The characters are a little cookie cutter, but for Alien movies, you kind of have to have a little cookie cutter, not horrifically, but enough that we don't have the time in an Alien movie.
Let me do it for you. If you go too weird, you lose the audience that just wanted an Aliens movie.
That's literally what I was about to say.
Yeah, if you don't give people enough of what they came for, then they hate your movie because it's not what this is not my Aliens movie.
Absolutely,
which is the same problem Star Wars has, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, I love Star Wars. Just actually probably a little bit more than Alien.
I don't want to talk about that anymore.
So Mark, Acolyte.
Yeah, if we could talk about the Catholic Church for just
Stop it
right
now.
I can't answer the question if you don't shut up.
Oh my god, thank you. You're my hero, by the way. It was like I was in court. I was like, tell me where they do the Catholic Church of the Acolyte. Well, I said tell me. I'm like, I'm trying.
I have to breathe in air in order to speak.
Dad, I'll answer you if you just shut up. Sorry, I had a moment.
Yeah, he had a Vietnam flashback. Everybody, sorry about that.
I'm sorry, I don't know the metric system, Dad. All right, keep going.
But all powers of 10, Mark. How can you fail the metric system?
You could learn that in 10 minutes. Come on.
Stop hitting me. All right, keep going.
It's not my fault. I hate it when mom and dad fight. But no, again, the way the characters worked was simplistic enough that you could get on board with them. You could roll with them and feel like it's somebody you knew or know someone like that, and roll very quickly with it. So we can get to what everyone came for, which is the xenomorphs. The actors doing motion capture for the xenomorphs need a huge round of applause. They did fantastic. They moved beautifully.
Yeah,
they moved
they did.
seamlessly. Excuse me. One of the issues I had with Alien Covenant was that, and I'm not trying to go on to another movie, but it does attach to this one, is that the full CGI xenomorphs looked too smooth, too pristine. And this had that kind of jank move to it where you could feel a human body in that costume. Sorry.
One of the draws to this franchise is that biomechanical, somewhat like psychosexual design of the aliens that came from Swiss surrealist
Geiger.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you don't have enough Giger, you really don't have the xenomorph.
Absolutely. And again, huge round of applause for everyone. I didn't write down all the names, but that were the stunt performers for that. I know you guys are all watching this because everybody hangs on W2M networks, every word. So since I know you're watching, congratulations.
Yeah, it's Midnight's Edge, The Drinker, Us.
us. Boom.
You're
Midnight
chasing off a fan.
We moved to number 2. But I will echo, I'm sure, what everyone else is going to say, and it's already kind of been said. Seeing Ian Holm back in this very shitty CGI, which again, it broke my heart because
that hurt.
All the other CGI in the movie,
just keep going.
in the movie was fantastic. It was well done, and this just looked like somebody at the last minute said, "You know, it'd be fun. What if we put Ian Holm in the movie?" Dude, we have like 5 minutes before the freaking premiere. I don't care. Do it now. And it was because I believe in some cases, like in Rogue One, I know everyone bitches about Peter Cushing's return in that and Princess Leia. I think Peter Cushing in that, and since they did get permission from the family, it worked. I enjoyed seeing Grand Moff Tarkin back and having a larger character. This was in Rook in Romulus was completely unnecessary. You could have gone a completely different way. You could have gotten Fassbender back if you wanted to go in that direction. You could have gotten, please, older people help me, the guy who played Bishop.
Lance Henriksen. How dare
Lance
you,
Henriksen.
Older people help.
Well,
Hey, I said older people. I didn't go, hey, old
well,
guy.
you dirty whore.
you infantile pimp.
Yeah, you could have gotten Lance Henriksen. Hey, at least we got laughs, folks.
Dorian Price, you ignorant slut.
That's the one right there. Thank you, Mark.
Second SNL reference of the night. Wow.
We're
on a roll.
But no, you could have gotten Lance Henriksen. You didn't need Ian Holm, and it's really broke my heart. Like I'd love to see his I'd love to see older actors who have passed away with the permission from their families come back into movies, in special ways like that, because it is
Thank you, Michelle.
Form of immortality. Sorry, Michelle, you can kill me later. She's already killing me in the comments, but so yeah. To wrap up, overall, I would say a strong 8.5 out of 10. I definitely recommend this film. And then I will throw it to Mac, who's on LV426.
Yeah, I think they struck a perfect balance regarding practical effects and CGI. Somebody finally put CGI in its cage and said, look, you're really good for these things. You kind of suck for these. And poor Rook. There's the suckage right there. However, the exteriors done in CGI, they were magnificent. When the ring of the planet starts tearing up the ship, that's easy to believe. The menace of it is real. The sound design was wonderful. But the practical effects were where they belonged. I think they went CGI with the facehugger leaping across the room. I'm going to forgive him for that because it was fairly good. It was convincing. But boy, if I have to give this two different reviews. If you've never seen an Aliens movie, you should see this one. Don't tell yourself I've got to go back and watch all the other ones. Start here. This is actually a good place. You're going to get a big full of like 2 or 3 movies at the same time.
Like I said, my son saw 79, and he's like me and Robert. He grew up as an infant. I was playing these podcasts for him to go to sleep. So like he grew up with this stuff. He's seen 79. He's seen James Cameron, and he liked this movie too. His sister, who only saw, and it was years ago, so she's forgotten at this point, Aliens, fucking loved the shit out of Romulus. To the point. Like, and again, we're 10 and 13-year-old children here, and they might as well have never seen any of these before, and that's the audience you want.
Yeah, if you're going to revive, this is the way you want to do it. And if you start here and you just go forward, you'll still be happy, especially if they continue with this quality. Like I said, the practical effects, the CGI were put in their place. They favored the storytelling over anything else, and that's really what they should be doing. I want to highlight. I'm going to step away from Rook because he makes me sad, but I want to highlight Andy for a minute. They finally did something with an android that I've been waiting for somebody to do. An android is a programmable device, despite the fact that it walks and talks and but like 3 scenes in, Andy needs some kind of repair. We take a disc from another android, we pop it in, and bam! Suddenly Andy works for the company. He doesn't care about anybody. He's smarter, he's faster, he's better, and we hate him. And then later we return him because that's the guy we wanted to begin with. We didn't like the new improved Andy.
I got to interject again. So my son's reaction to both Rook, Bishop, Mother, turn it off! Just unplug it! What are you doing? My son's screaming like Sam Kinison in every one of these Aliens movies. It's a fucking robot! Turn it off!
It's a device. There's an off switch. Use it. Hey, he's right. He's completely right. But they actually needed it for number
We
6.
love you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're watching right now, but we love you.
Here's the fucking Jonas Radulich, everyone.
We are still fundraising for his 2042 presidential campaign.
That is correct.
There we go. I'm ready for that.
Yes, a chicken in every pot and a cocaine in every bear.
Radulich 2034. We're ready to believe you.
You.
Keep going, Mac.
If you've never seen Alien, start here. Don't feel burdened to go back. You've got enough. You'll get enough to go forward from here. However, if you've seen all the previous movies, you're gonna get a lower grade. I'm gonna go from an A- to a B+ on that because of all the. They're doing it again. They're doing it the same way. They've turned up the volume, but it's exactly the same thing. I can't tell you the number of scenes I walked into. I already knew what was happening. That guy's already dead. He's going to do this. That's going to happen, and then all these things have to happen, and that's fine if you know this is a good popcorn movie. If you don't mind that, but if you've never seen any of that, this is a great first page. Just go in from here. I'm going to log one pet peeve: the word xenomorph, which in Aliens they say is this going to be a stand-up fight, sir, or another bug hunt? Xenomorph means that. Xeno meaning unknown or strange, morph meaning form. A xenomorph is anything you've never seen before and don't know what it is. It's like UFO used to mean unidentified flying object until people started using UFO to define flying saucers. Now the xenomorph is the Giger creature, and it's specific to that animal. You can't use a broad description anymore. Xenomorph means nothing. It means a thing that has a form that you've never seen before, but now it means this specific thing. I worry that in science fiction we're educating people scientifically bad. Did this film bring anything new to the franchise? Only in the sense that they finally treated an android like a machine. He can have traits that you love, and then one programming disk away, and he's somebody you hate, and he's strong in one scene and weak in another. He's just this very programmable thing. That's the only new thing I saw, really.
I'd add one thing really quick, since the question is, I know it wasn't for you, Michelle. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to add this. What this film did bring new to the franchise was new people who may have never seen it before otherwise. Because with 79 being, and I apologize, this is not another older people joke. This is, 79 being so far behind us, a lot of people my age and a little younger might go, "Oh fuck, a movie from 1979? What am I in film class? Nah." They won't enjoy it. This brings this to them and allows them the chance to go back and watch the earlier films, with a perspective of this is what brought us here. So again, as a film student myself, I think that's another thing it brings to the franchise. Okay, but that's actually what I'm trying to say. If that does make you sad, I don't want to go back. The effects in 1979 make me sad. No, you don't actually have to do that. You're going to get a big mouthful of Alien, a big mouthful of Aliens, and a nice round sampling of how this universe works in this movie alone. If you don't want to step back in the time, this is a great place to start. So if you've seen the movie, if you've seen all the franchise before, I'm going to give it a B+, just because it revisits everything and there's a little fan service in there, which I like. If you haven't seen anything before, I'm going to give it an A-. The dialogue wasn't wonderful, but how important is that here? The exposition was kind of, thank you, androids. God bless androids for doing all the exposition. But that's my summation there. The dialogue in an Alien movie is basically just to be like, "Bitch, run!"
Yeah.
So first of all,
why are you not running?
Bill Paxton's lines from Aliens are still some of the funniest.
Yes, they are.
Still some of the best dialogue in this entire franchise. All right, so I started this with Deadpool. I'm going to do it here. First, my subjective thoughts, then my objective film criticism. My subjective, I enjoyed the movie. There was a couple of things that were so bad I wanted to throw a shoe at the screen, and I'll get to those when I get to the craft review. But as a general viewing experience, Once they found the room full of face huggers, I was on the edge of my seat, and I didn't necessarily sit back until the very end of the movie, which goes a little too long. Somebody compared it to like Return of the King and like calm the fuck down. It's not that bad. But
it's not that prolonged, but boy, do they get more mileage than necessary out of the confined shuttle space for that final confrontation.
yeah, it does go on a little.
Yeah, they do.
It does go on forever.
Well,
But
again, very quickly on that, just again, give me 10 seconds.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is great about that is that it's the old thing of like the haunted house of like you can't get out, and I think using that claustrophobia does not only salute back to the 79 version, but does give us a more tense, like putting yourself in that situation where it's like, fuck, there's not a lot of place to move around here.
Yeah,
so I think that worked.
I was having a good time watching it. The characters didn't annoy me enough to where I was like, "Oh, thank God you're dead." I mean, the one guy who,
Thank God.
Somebody referred to him as British mushmouth. You know, the
Mumbles.
Mumbles. I mean, again, these aren't scientists. I was thinking a lot about the characters from '79. I like I said, I watched about 2/3 of it in my living room, and because I don't have like surround sound and whatnot, there are certain movies, especially older ones, where there's a lot, the score is always at like a 10, but the dialogue is at a 2. And you never find the right place to hit the volume where, the loud parts aren't waking everybody up in the house or completely, or I can't hear the dialogue. But I mean, if you watch the conversations around the dinner table in '79 in both of those scenes, there's a lot of stuff you miss, and you really have to like. I think at one point we had the closed caption on, and I was like, "You can turn closed caption off." And I was like, "I can't understand what the fuck they're saying." So I'm not gonna. I mean, again, we're talking about blue collar workers in space, which I still think is a fantastic concept.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for, totally correct King's English enunciation. These are supposed to be real people in a serious predicament.
Forsooth, Ripley, we must make haste away from the foul creature that's denizen of hell.
Run, Ripley. No, run.
but you still have to be understandable. I still have to know what you're saying.
He doesn't say anything. He's not saying anything important enough that I cared. He can be mush mouth.
One of the things he's saying about the 79 version, I absolutely agree with, because again, watching it before I watched this, just to kind of bounce off your point, Mark, and add more to it, is that I really love the dialogue in 79 because it doesn't seem scripted. There are times that I've been digging.
Yeah, they did that
stuff to find out if this was all like, if this was actually what they wrote, or if it was
when
improv.
The guy from Homicide starts talking about, can we talk about the bonus structure? That felt like that felt like one of the meetings at my work. Where it's like, listen, I want to get through the agenda. Okay, but I have a lot of stupid questions and I'm half an idiot. No.
Yeah. I remember thinking, shit, I know that guy.
You go back to work on Monday. It's like, morning, Mark. Fuck you.
I say that anyway. Everyone's well aware of my opinions. Anyway, so I like the things that I liked about it. For the most part, I like the set design. I think the movie up until the third act was pretty well paced. I mean, we get to the mall pretty quickly. We get them off the world, we get them into the heist, and that's the other thing is I like the concept of, at least for a little while, this was a heist movie. They are trying to break They are trying to break into the casino, steal the gold, and get out. And unfortunately, they were hiding a monster in the casino, and we
didn't get George Clooney. Have you seen Gravity? That didn't end well.
Yeah, that does.
Well, not for him.
So let me just get into. So everyone's just like, well, "Did you like the movie?" Yeah, for the most part. Here are the things that are not great about it. I'm going to explain this in somewhat great detail, so just stick with me here. When Ripley says, "Get away from her, you bitch," she is a woman in a mom role talking to the queen alien, and regardless of whether and of what its actual, it's animal biology is, queen denotes woman. So one woman saying to another, "Get away from my child, you whore." Okay, yeah. That line has weight. It means something.
It's primal. I love it.
Yes.
And also really quick, just background to that. We find out at the start of Aliens that Ripley's daughter, since she's been gone so long in cryosleep, has aged and died. She's lost her child, and she says the line, "I promised I'd be back for her 12th birthday."
It was one of the things I talked about with Sean, where I actually think, Sean and I got into a pretty intense argument over whether or not you needed the bits with the daughter in the director's cut versus the theatrical cut were not in there. And I said, I think it gives, especially the end, a lot more weight when you realize that Newt's a surrogate daughter to Ripley, and there's more going on here than just Bill Paxton's funny lines and running from aliens. So when Andy, with no other explanation and no setup, just says the thing, and then what's his face is only I may dance part, I was like, Jesus Christ! I was hoping that would make Robert laugh.
If you'd remember that it's Conan O'Brien, maybe that would have hit, but
I couldn't remember. I almost said David Letterman, and I knew that wasn't right. Yeah, so he goes, get away from her, you bitch. And then, again, you're waiting for Conan O'Brien. You're waiting for Conan O'Brien to go, no, only I may dance. Go ahead,
there's
Robert.
something wrong with the delivery too, because he says, get away from her, shoots the thing repeatedly in the head,
right,
and then almost as punctuation goes, you bitch.
Right. It's totally
it's wrong. Like, it doesn't fit.
Well, it's not just read wrong. It's dialogue. It doesn't belong.
Yeah.
He hasn't cussed once in the entire movie.
Yeah. They threw that. It's like Avengers Assemble. It was like, we know we have to have him say it at some point. We waited 87 movies for him to say it, so he's going to say it now at the Battle of the Five Armies. So,
but it hits.
I think it needed saying. I just think they picked the wrong character to do it.
Well, and also the thing is, like, not every movie needs a catchphrase.
Right.
Again,
what did you say?
I know. I know.
That gets you thrown out of the window, man.
I wish the line that everyone remembered from Aliens was, "We're in some real pretty shit now, man," because I would have much rather him said that. Shoot the fucking thing in the head, look at her and go, "We're in some real pretty shit now, huh?"
Yeah, there you go.
That would have been better than what he actually said.
Or some reference to a bug hunt. That would have been good.
Have him come out of nowhere, and we don't even see him at first, and this the head thing he blows, the alien's head off, and he's holding the gun and goes, "Yeah, I brought this out earlier. I just use it for close encounters." It's like, okay, ha, aliens. But again, with the catchphrase thing, very quickly, Mark, because I want you obviously to keep going. It's your show. Is like the line from Predator, "You are one ugly motherfucker."
Yeah.
Worked when Arnold said it, but then in Predator 2, and as much as I love Danny Glover, it didn't land the same way.
Right.
Which is,
I think
hang on.
The same issue is like Sigourney Weaver saying, "Get away from her, you bitch," is, the only time I've heard it done the same way is in Harry Potter, but they changed it a little bit when, Molly Weasley's like, "Not my daughter, you bitch."
Right.
It's like, okay, someone saw aliens. But yeah, it's sorry, the whole reason for breaking in and saying this is like, catchphrases have to be used in a specific way. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. You don't want anyone else saying that other than John McClane unless you're making fun of it. And if the context isn't right, it doesn't land.
What they should have done is the bit when we're doing the guns, but we can't fire them for whatever the reasons are. Andy should have turned around and said, or someone should have turned around and said, "Well, what are we supposed to use? Harsh language?"
Harsh language.
One of my favorite lines from that movie. Anyway, the problem is I started my craft review with that because that is my problem with this whole fucking movie. Is exactly what I said before. This becomes a list of things that were in other Aliens movies that we need to make sure are in this one too. Because if we go more than 30 seconds and there isn't something familiar, we're going to lose the kids. And it annoyed the piss out of me.
I think it's the other way around. If there's not something familiar every 30 seconds or 1 minute, we're going to lose the older fans.
Okay, I will meet you halfway and say we're both right.
Yeah,
we lose everybody.
Fuck everybody, shut it down.
Not a single memorable character in this entire fucking thing. Not one. Not a single. Not even. They're not even likable or not likable. They're just meat sacks. They are there to set up a thing, and that's it. The only character, and it's more because of the performance, is Andy. The guy playing Andy is phenomenal. Somebody suggested he should get at least a nomination for his acting for some major award next year. He won't, because not this kind of movie gets those kinds of things.
I don't think he deserves it for this.
Unless it's Avatar. But I think,
even then, like, he does a good job, but I don't think it's like super elevated.
He does what can be done, but there's just not much there.
I think he does a phenomenal job with that character, and there's a lot of nuance in his performance that he does with his face. Go ahead, Dorian.
No, I was actually just going to back you up, Mark, and say that it's very similar to Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman in the Star Wars prequels.
Mm-hmm.
They're fantastic, and they make those movies a lot more bearable considering the holes in them. And I love the prequels, but it's very much the same thing with Andy. It's like he makes the movie more bearable because he's kind of carrying the movie on his shoulder, going, "We're gonna get to the fucking finish line. Here we go."
The lead is someone look at Sigourney Weaver and say, "You're too old, you're too tall, and you're too feminine. We need a child girl in this role." The only thing I can think about with the casting here is like, what if? Okay, so you know how Alien 79 had like middle-aged people who had lived and they're driving a space tow truck? What if instead sexy youngsters? Huh? Like, the fuck? Why? Yeah, exactly.
Put that away.
And now a case shot on me bosoms. Like, there's nothing to I mean, she does a fine enough role, but all I could think about was something, again, going back to the Acolyte. Like, this was like, okay, what Aliens, but YA adaptation? That's what this felt like. It felt like, a Netflix YA version of Aliens movie with young, sexy people with 1/8 the talent.
Right, and again, they're all fantastic. And this is I was going to say this in my review, but I was going to actually save it for my wrap up. But since you bring it up, I'll say it now. I would actually love to see the Alien franchise do something, and I know it's crazy, but get a skinny boy who's kind of a nerd, is not very good at fighting, something like that. Make that the lead character. He doesn't have to be the I know exactly what's happening, and I am going to take care of it because I am a man. None of that shit. Like somebody who's actually kind of freaked out, and have a male lead for it, where you can still have a strong female lead, kind of like Hicks was in Aliens,
right?
Helping the guy out. But it's like every single Alien movie, it's like, okay, do we have our skinny but still sexy brunette lead? Okay,
what are they doing in the casting call for this? Like, let's have a bunch of 20 to 30-year-old women walk around in their underwear and see who wears it best. That's it. You're our new Ripley.
Can you have a grumpy face? Do you look like Sigourney Weaver? Job's yours.
Yeah. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, as a brief aside to that, since we decided to go with the most recent Predator movie with a female lead with mixed results, see our review of Prey, as for the good, bad, and otherwise, because that's a mixed movie. I don't mean to. I'm not trying to dump on it. I'm saying mixed.
I love
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to try a male lead in the Alien franchise.
Oh,
You're
what
not
you
wrong
said.
about that.
Anyway.
Oh my God, did Robert and I just agree? I'm gonna check outside.
If you want to kick somebody in the pants, make an android the lead.
Yeah,
I'd be down, believe it or not.
That's the other thing I want to. The other thing I got
because you can put 15 characters in that one person.
So, yeah, I'm not usually one that complains about the uncanny valley effect on some people. In fact, for a while, I didn't even know what the fuck people were talking about when they said uncanny valley. But I took one. First of all, I took one look at Rook. I forgot that the character's name was Ash and thought it was the same character. Number one. Number two, so I was a little confused there. Number two, I've seen more realistic looking porn special effects than what they did with that. Oy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That looked like PlayStation 2 cutscene graphics.
It looks like they gave it to a high school class and said, here, do something awful.
Roger Rabbit looked more realistic. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments earlier was like, how did that pass editing? And I'm like, they didn't give a fuck. That's why. They were like, other than fat nerds on a podcast, who's complaining about this?
Yep, get mad at Second Unit for that. Somebody didn't stare hard enough at what was happening.
Yeah, nobody cared. Again, this was supposed to be a Hulu movie, and it's like, well, we'll just throw it out in theaters and see how it does.
Well, that's why I think, just from a production point of view, it seems like that was a last-minute edit and reshoot. Because even look at the hair on the people that are talking to Rook.
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it's longer, and it's like, you know, they've tried to trim it real quick.
Right.
Like this seemed like a production note at the last minute.
Yeah.
Like
They redid it.
Yeah, and like they had everyone come back for reshoots because the producer or some exec went, "Hey, you know what'd be cool? Let's put, you know, Ian Holm in the movie." And there's a whole bunch of movies where, again, you can tell when the reshoots have happened because the hair is not, you know, the same way. They, you know, there's a little more scruff on the face of the guys and such.
If you're dealing especially with male actors, you can tell from their physiques because a lot of guys get into camera shape, and when you no longer have to be on camera, you no longer have to crash diet and go spend 2 hours in the sauna for your 5 seconds of shirtless time. I mean, if you guys want another example of this, I'm actually not going to reference the 4-stick, though that's a comical example. If you watch the theatrical release of Justice League, so the Joss Whedon version, you can very clearly tell which stuff Ben Affleck did with Zack Snyder and which stuff he got called back for.
Yeah,
It's not even close.
He pounded a cake.
I was gonna say, in one he looked like Robert, and the other one he looked like me.
Mark.
Mostly the facial hair.
And one more thing. They supposedly received transmissions from Ripley and Ash, so they clearly know what happened there. Yet no one pieced together that the 120A2s are a bit twitchy. No one figured that out from the 2 reports they got. They keep making Ash androids. I don't understand how that got past them.
I got a comment here I got to address real quick. He was asking me if I was talking about the alien human hybrid, and I was laughing the entire time. Like, again, a couple of years ago, Sean and I reviewed Titan, and if you want to see a woman explode while giving birth, there's your movie. She gave birth to a car. It's fantastic shit. Highly recommend. 4 stars. Cool.
I was gonna say that sounds really gross.
Oh yeah, Titan's amazing.
The Radulich
is awful.
highly recommend.
If you want to see a girl bang a car and then explode while being pregnant, watch Titan, and then check out our review on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. But anywho, I really think they chickened out with her pregnancy. They should have blew her the fuck up like you walked on a goddamn landmine, and instead it's just, you know, it's just gross. But it's like meh. And then the thing that comes out looks like a cross between Freddy Krueger and Slender Man. I'm just laughing. Like, if they were going for the engineers, they missed.
It's really the face that lets you know it's supposed to be an engineer.
Yes, it is, and the color, the skin color, kind of.
It looked like Freddy when he comes to the wall in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and he just kept going, and he was like, "Well, this is my new look now." So
I'm stuck.
I'm gonna walk around in cellophane like I'm on Project Runway.
Spandex.
Whatever.
For the record.
I'm walking around in a dress made of Reynolds wrap. Anyway,
if we brought up the looks like Slender Man, it's still the best Slender Man movie they've done so far.
Fair enough.
Incredibly low bar to clear.
All right, last thing, so that Robert can get in here, since we're way over an hour now. That last bit where they have her running around in her underwear. First of all, that girl is 3 feet tall and 20 pounds. And she's running around with a goddamn machine gun. The one cool thing I will say is, if someone's like, say one nice thing about this movie from a visual aspect, the bit with the acid in the zero gravity was cool. At least I liked it.
That was good.
I liked it was one of the only times in the movie there was an appropriate amount of tension where I actually really didn't know what was going to happen, and I was curious to see how she was going to get out of it. So her floating around in the acid and her going whoop 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 whoop, I was into it. That's really cool. It was a really cool visual effect. It was about the only interesting visual thing in the movie. But getting back to the last bit where basically they were like, can we do aliens with Sigourney Weaver in her underwear, but make this child cosplay it? And by that point, it was like another movie, kind of like Twisters, Twisters, last one, where I said the same thing. Where about 2/3 of the movie, I'm really into this and I'm having the time of my life, and it's in my top 10. Then we get to that last third, and I'm like, what the fuck happened here? Same thing here. It was like I was really enjoying the movie. I was really into it, and then we get to, you know, again, the child cosplaying the last part of Aliens, and I'm like, this is dumber than shit and taking way too long. So speaking of dumber than shit and taking way too long, Robert, your thoughts?
That's a great intro.
For those of you who have watched the reviews I've been on before, I made the joke that Mark is the dad and Robert is the bitchy yoga mom. This is mom and dad fighting.
Make fun of my segues, will
nice
ya?
segue.
You're on, Robert.
Nice segue. Yeah, thank you.
Follow that, you son of a bitch.
Let me start with a few positives. The production elements on this are very good. The set design is good. The commitment to building practical sets and letting the actors actually have stuff to physically interact with. Just yes, please, thank you. More of this.
Yes.
They did a good job of replicating the aesthetic of the original Alien, which it's always difficult to try and do futuristic guesswork. There's something, however, about Alien that if there's one thing on the Alien that for their future tech doesn't seem like it's survived really, it's just the specifics of like the monitors. But everything else, they use key cards. We still use key cards. Why wouldn't we? They're easier. There's buttons and no touchscreens. Well, it turns out buttons are better. Like everyone that's gone touchscreen is going back.
Star Trek, we've got those now.
That's
it.
And there's kind of a timeless aesthetic to a lot of what Alien produced as far as its futurism. And with very minor exceptions, it all still kind of works. So replicating that instead of doing the hyper futuristic, everything's done with holograms and touch screens, and that actually dates your product more so than a kind of generic futurism. And replicating that for this was a really smart idea instead of trying to go in a different direction, again, production wise. If this falls down in a few different places, though, the character, it's one thing to have more like cardboard characters. We're not here for like Shakespearean character work, okay? I mean, we all know this. These are also, unfortunately, these characters, what they're mostly devoid of is not just like depth, it's just personality.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing memorable about them. And look, Hicks is not a deep character, but you remember that guy.
You do.
I mean, Vasquez, not a deep character. There's no waxing.
You say
poetic
Alien. Who wants to see an Alien movie in iambic pentameter? I would actually go see that.
Ditto. But look, man, again, Vasquez doesn't wax poetic about the state of women in the colonial Marines, but you remember that character.
Yeah, but that's also what you get when you get a white girl who thought she was auditioning for a different movie, and then you have to tan her up so she can look like she's Latino.
She did fine.
She did fine, but again, she's a very, very white person playing a very, very Hispanic role. Check it out.
You can't tell by looking at her in the movie.
I'm sorry?
You cannot tell by looking at her in the movie. I spent 10 years in El Paso. She'd have done fine.
No, she's fine. I'm just bringing that up. Robert, continue. Sorry.
But
I'll fight later.
Look, Tom Skerritt's Captain from the original Alien. Again, not the deepest of characters. You get a few quiet character moments, but you also, it's enough to remember them. It's enough for the characters to become memorable. I couldn't tell you one thing about any of these people apart from, hey, that guy was the Uber douche, and there was the pregnant lady. That's all we've got. Like, we don't need deep character work, but memorable character work doesn't need to be deep. And
the other thing I was going to add to that, the reason why the crew in both Alien and Aliens works is because there was a camaraderie and rapport with each other.
Yeah.
We took the time with the characters in the beginning segments to spend some time with them when we found out, who Hicks was. You
really could spend some time getting to know the Colonial Marines.
But you got to get after the writers too. I mean, all the Sarge says was somebody wake up Hicks. And suddenly we realize that he slept through that terrible event. Now we remember him. Somebody wake up Hicks. Now we remember that guy. The writing they didn't own it for this one.
Dude,
Anybody else?
Dude, I don't remember the guy's name, but even the black guy, because he had such funny one-liners, like maybe she didn't like the cornbread either. Like I still say that.
Would you like me to get your slippers for you? Would you please, Sarge? That'd be really
Look into
really
my
really good.
eye.
into my eye.
Go ahead, Robert.
Well, Mark's right.
But no, that's kind of the point. Like those characters, they're not deep, but there's personality that brims out of them, and their interactions are well written or improvised around what's written to make it work. None of that is present here, and it really hurts the overall feel of the film when none of that is really there.
I want to break in real quick because what you're saying is something I left out. Sorry, on my notes. I'm realizing there were no character arcs.
None.
No.
In Alien and Aliens, there were arcs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even our lead and Andy don't have arcs either. They're different by the end of it. They just survive. Hey, we are running behind. We have 30 minutes.
So sorry.
Before I want to get the fuck out of here. So Robert, go.
Yeah. The other, and this is my biggest gripe with this movie. Look, like, is this a good movie? Yeah, I generally echo the positive sentiments you all have shared. This is worth seeing, absolutely. The problem is when you start. I got out of the movie theater watching this earlier today, and I had my gripes with it, as I do a lot of things. But it's a movie that almost the more I think about it, the more it doesn't hold up. There's so much in this movie that, like, why does X happen? Because it was in another one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of that. And one or two of those is not a problem. When that feels like 80-ish% of your movie, it's kind of a problem. And that's ultimately where it doesn't quite bear up for me. There's there's some good stuff here. I don't mean to say there isn't. I like Fede Álvarez in general. He actually is, I think, the right guy to bring back some horror to this. Because he's not afraid of the blood. He's not afraid of the body horror that parts of this need. I think he was probably constrained more by like studio notes. Because if you've seen his take on Evil Dead, and I recommend you do so, by the way, if you're not averse to body horror, he would have no problem blowing people up. Like, just none. So I feel there were some minor constraints there that, having production to keep that in check, especially with some slightly more out there directors, is not the worst thing in the world. I wanted to like the final act more than I did because it should have been creepier. You have a decent enough creepy character design until you get a better look at it and just realize, oh, you basically are kind of ripping off the pale man from Pan's Labyrinth and just stuck a different face on it. And it just doesn't, again, there's a lot there that should work because there's a lot about the lines and the proportions that are just inherently creepy to humanity for some reason. Let's not delve into whatever might have traumatized our ancestors so badly that set of examples and angles is embedded in our DNA to get the fuck away from that. But it's supposed to be, I think, creepier than it is. You can kind of see the elements that Álvarez wanted to run with and maybe had some of the original ideas. Much as I did not especially care for the alien acid blood and zero gravity, it didn't work for me personally. But that's an original idea. It's an original way to approach that problem. Having more people melt under the acid, like, that's clearly something he was willing to go for, and I'm not opposed to it, but the execution wasn't quite there. I actually wouldn't have minded if most of what were, instead of a bunch of, traditional xenomorph aliens, if a lot of what's stalking them through the ship is actually the creature we see at the end, if they'd actually created that hybrid there.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of what's stalking us is something even the audience isn't all that familiar with and how it works. But it feels like, because we're trying to do a promotional reboot, we don't do anything all that interesting or new with what's going on. We tell people it's safe to come back. And in fairness,
hopefully they'll follow that up if there is a sequel to this.
I would like to see that. Like, there's a couple of ideas here that I think could germinate and spin off into stuff that is clearly in the Alien universe, but isn't maybe as kind of crushed under the weight of everything that's come before it in the franchise. And that's kind of what I think hinders a lot of this movie, at least conceptually. Ultimately, again, find enough movie, go see it, have fun. If you like this franchise, you will probably have a decent time. If you think about it too much, and especially if you think about it on like a film construction level, there's a lot that doesn't quite hold up to scrutiny, but it's still worth your time and money, I think.
All right, folks, I'm going to speed run this. So here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All righty. And let's put you on screen. There we go. On a budget of $80 million. Oh my God, they actually made this for an adult budget. At the time of this recording, it has made $110.1 million. So this is, by today's standards, a wild success.
Well on its way to profitability.
It's on its way, yeah.
Alien Romulus was the #1 movie of the weekend.
Finally had to dethrone Deadpool and Wolverine.
It was like 4 weeks out, it finally defeated Deadpool and Wolverine. That knocked it from 1 to 2. It ends with us, Dorian. Fell from 2 to 3. Twisters in its 5th week. Fell from 3 to 4. 3 to 4. Coraline, speaking of creepy shit. The 15th anniversary debuted at number 5 from Fathom Events. Despicable Me fell from 5 to 6. Inside Out maintained its spot at number 7, 10 weeks out. Trapped fell from 6 to 8. Stree 2 debuted at number 9. Borderlands. Oh my God. Borderlands with a 71% fucking drop. For those of you that missed this last week, for those of you that missed it,
Dorian, knock it off.
Nah, let him have some fun.
there it is. I've heard Telltale. It's now taken the #1 spot as the worst bomb in history.
It sort of depends on how you want to categorize that. It's certainly one of.
Yeah.
If it's in competition, it's enough.
Yeah.
In its second week, it fell from 4 to 10 and had a 71.8 drop. This is a miserable failure. All in the Purple Crayon fell from 8 to 11. Debuting at number 12 is My Penguin Friend. Debuting number 16, much to my son's chagrin, Ryan's World, the movie, which feels like 20 years too late. Titan Universe Adventure. Skincare debuted at number 17. Rob Peace at number 18. Caligula Ultimate Cut. Why am I just now hearing about this? Caligula. So it is a child. Fantastic. Tells you a lot about me. Debuted at number 30.
Tell me more about your parents.
What now? Mountain. Debuted at 40. Red Island 47. And that was the weekend that was worldwide on a dime, baby. The #1 movie in the world is still Inside Out. The #2 movie in the world is still Deadpool and Wolverine at over $1 billion. Despicable Me in a comfortable spot at number 3 at $848 million. Robert, this may stall out, not make $1 billion.
It's looking like it, but you know what? Those movies still make money hand over fist, so
yeah,
they're gonna keep making them.
Dune, that pushes Dune down to 4. Godzilla multiplied by Kong down to 5. Kung Fu Panda still at number 6. Bad Boys, Ride or Die, much to Robert's chagrin, at $400 million, number 7. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at $397 is number 8. Twisters is at $333 million.
Still might beat Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but that might not too.
Yeah, that's close. A Quiet Place Day 1 eking in the top 10, but it will not be there for long, I don't think. The top 20 goes like this: Garfield, Ghostbusters, If, Bob Marley, It Ends With Us, The Fall Guy, Furiosa, The Beekeeper, Civil War, and Alien Romulus, debuting on the worldwide chart in its first week at the number 20 spot. So I'm not going to do the joke. I usually go, well, here are the movies doing worse than Madam Web. And a few years ago, here were the movies doing, what was it? the movie's doing worse than what movie we were? Oh, Morbius. That's what it was.
Morbius. Yeah.
All right. So the question then remains: we have The Crow next week. Do you think The Crow beats Aliens, Robert?
I'm gonna say no.
You passing
I'm gonna be-
there, Robert?
I'm gonna be optimistic and say no.
Yeah, you think Aliens? I mean, it's got good word of mouth. I don't want to get too long into this because again, I do want to end soon. But if we could just spend like 4 or 5 minutes, I don't know if The Crow, in the year of our Lord 2024, still has enough of a following, old and new, that it draws an audience. I think my daughter is really into the idea, but she's also leaning goth, alt, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know how many parents are bringing their kids to go see The Crow. Back when it was popular, when I was a kid, one, it had soundtrack that was of the new music of the time. So you had Pantera, you had Helmet, you had My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, you had Nails, you had Stone Temple Pilots. That thing was the greatest hit of the 90s. It was wow the 90s. And it was that Judgment Night. It was phenomenal.
That's what we call music, the 90s.
That's right. And this one doesn't have that. At the time that The Crow was made into a movie, the goth industrial culture was in the mainstream. I think KMFDM's Angst had come out by that point, so Light was making its way around. And I think shortly thereafter you had, I want to say it was Power, and then or first it was Night Hill and then Power. So KMFDM had a couple of albums out by this point that were popular. 9 Inch Nails was the toast of the town. Ministry had put out Psalm 69. That look, that aesthetic had its first dalliance with the mainstream. Crow in 2024 has none of that going for it. So just a word or two, Mac, then Dorian, and then Robert, back cleanup. Your thoughts about whether or not this new Crow movie, good, bad, or indifferent, and I'm not even talking, I don't even want you to deal with the possibilities of its craft. Does the thing in the year of our Lord 2024 actually have an audience?
I think we're going to find out. I don't know if we're going to call one in with that icon. I don't think we're not going to call in the original audience. If we get them in, we're going to get them in with a much better trailer than the one that's out right now.
It's not good.
Dorian?
I think the original audience that you had, which is a little bit older than me, and there's some that are my age as well. They're going to come in simply because it's like, all right, well, we do love this story. Let's see what happens. I think how they've handled it, though, is scaring a lot of people off because, and I'll end with this. I think Skarsgård is a fantastic actor. He did fantastic as Pennywise, but he's what I've been hearing from most of my friends who are around my age are all saying he looks like the more goth version of Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah. That's kind of the aesthetic he's got going, and it's
and
I think the wrong one.
I think that's scaring a lot of people away, to be honest. But yeah,
they couldn't get manlier than Brandon Lee, and it's not like Brandon Lee was Sylvester Stallone. Go ahead, Robert.
I'm sure it's going to have some kind of an audience. I don't think it's going to be big enough is maybe the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're relying on nostalgia more than quality, and that's a losing recipe more often than not these days.
I will say one last thing. Sorry, I just didn't want. I know Mr. Radulich, we're on the clock here. I think this Crow movie would have worked better if they'd gone directly back to the comic book, really kind of ripped out that 80s vibe, that they had in the visuals, and had gotten Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things to be the Crow. I really think that would have grabbed a lot more audience members than what we've got now. But that's just a visual personal preference.
I think Alien Romulus does a second week at the #1 spot. The Crow debuts at #2 and then does a Borderlands-esque fall, because what follows next is Beetlejuice. And while I could spend the next hour trying to explain the appeal of Beetlejuice, if nothing else, 87 people want to come on this podcast talking about the original and the new one. You bastards. Ruined my special time with Robert with your nonsense. Beetlejuice.
There was no special time to be had with Beetlejuice, Mark. You know that.
So,
All right, fine, Mac. We'll start our own podcast with Black Hookers.
Put it on a t-shirt.
And you know what?
Mindy.
Forget the podcast.
What I'm saying is that it's going to get crushed under the weight of Beetlejuice, and no one will ever speak of the shortcut again.
Yeah, that's about right. Whatever audience it has is going to get severely cut into by that.
Yeah. So there was
again, as always, we must remember that we can always be wrong. So to our audience out there right now who's really rooting for the new Crow movie, remember, we could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to get followed by Transformers 1 and Woofs, which my son actually wants to see. He wants to see both of them. And then The Wild Robot. And that in the beginning of October brings us to Joker Folie Deux. And there's a question here with the lovely people who have been watching this whole show and commenting crazy, like the best.
It's been very active.
Yeah,
we appreciate you guys. Seriously,
thank you and sincerely. Thank you very much. Question for all y'all W2M: do y'all think Joker Folie Deux will outdo Alien Romulus at the box office?
Absolutely.
I want to do 2 minutes on this.
No.
Joker 2019 was a once in a lifetime cross section of a lot of things happening all at once that made that movie $1 billion. Robert and I have talked about it. I don't want to rehash it. We don't have time. But there was a lot going on in culture. There was a lot going on with men. There was a lot going on in the world. And mental health. And Joker was a lightning in a bottle moment in time that that a generation rarely sees. You cannot recreate that experience. The conditions have changed. COVID changed the world in a way that you can't recreate what made Joker magical in the first place. That being said, so I don't think Joker Folie Deux is going to do as well as Joker. It's certainly not going to make $1 billion. Will it be the number one movie of its weekend? Yes, because I think people will be curious about it.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah, I suppose.
Enough
Sure, you're right. But I'll go once around the panel here. You all kind of just shouted things out, but people just shouting out in class. Wait your turn. My assessment is it'll win its weekend. At that point, Alien Romulus will have fallen out of the top 4 or 5 because again, we're talking the October 1st year. But it'll probably be somewhere in the bottom half of the top 10. That's as good as it does. Mac, your 10 words or last thoughts, how well Folie Deux is going to do.
I think riding on Lady Gaga alone and the history of Joker alone, it'll do exactly as you predicted. I just don't see it having any legs.
Yeah. I think 3 to 5 is safe. Dorian?
Yeah.
I think with them going into more musical routes, we'll probably bring more people in because you're going to definitely get the theater kid crowd.
Hang on, there's musicals and then there's musicals. Okay, there's Wicked and then there's Joker Folie Deux. They ain't the same.
Fair. I actually think that Joker Folie Deux will do better than Wicked.
You're out of your fucking mind.
No.
Bold predictions, Cotton.
Hang on. I mean Wicked the movie. I mean,
Oh,
Wicked the movie that's coming out because they have a Wicked movie. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I misunderstood you. You were talking about the Broadway show. Because again, they've dropped a trailer for the Wicked movie. I'm not
yes,
trying to take a
and I
crack.
think Wicked will do better than Joker. I hope that's what you meant.
No, he doesn't.
Oh,
He
no.
doesn't.
Oh my God.
Hang on. I'm a little. Look, man. If I've got 2 major things against Wicked,
Hang on, before you complete that
That's
sentence.
2?
Wicked is going to perform very well because girls exist. Go on.
Yes.
hang on. There's 2 things that are gonna make that movie struggle more than people are realizing. I think. I'm not saying it's gonna do bad, but first of all, part 1. I cannot stress this enough. Part 1. This movie's gonna end halfway through the story. It's
Intermission.
not the full thing. That's a bigger deal than you might realize. The proverbial you, like not just you in particular, Mark, but that's going to be a bigger deal than most people think. Second, I think it winds up having some stiffer competition in closer proximity. I'm going off of memory here, so I may be mistaken. So tell me if I'm wrong. I don't want to.
Whoever you are, Michelle, you're amazing, and I hope you'll come back.
Michelle's the best.
I also hope you've enjoyed my casual.
But
Such
again,
a
the
dick.
fact that it's only
Casual
half.
misogyny. Mwah. Sorry.
Yeah, the fact that it's only half is going to hurt it, and I feel like it's going to wind up with some competition that is also going to hurt it a little bit. Will it do better than Folia do? Probably, but I think that might wind up being closer than you anticipate.
Well,
I don't
I
have
mean,
a whole.
I would bet one of my
when
ex.
they did the
hang
Phantom
on,
of the Opera movie
hang
in
on.
2004.
I would bet one of my ex-wives that Wicked does better.
Wow, really low bar to get over.
Wait a minute. I got
Pick
two
whichever
ex-wives.
one you want. I've got
Okay,
plenty.
hang on. But what are you actually offering?
Do you want to lose? Is that what you're saying?
You got to know when to hold them.
Know when to fold them.
Hold up.
Know
Know
when
when
to
to walk away.
Know when to run.
To run.
All right,
please-
I'm gonna
please
raise
finish
you
your
my
point.
I'm gonna raise you my 2 ex-wives. All right, I fold.
No,
See, that man knows how to play.
Please finish, Robert. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. For me, the answer is whether does Joker 2 do better than Romulus. How much it holds next week is gonna be a bit telling in that regard. I think if Alien Romulus only has like a 40 to 50% drop, it has a better chance than you might think. So it's up there. Next week will be a bit more instructive about that. I'm kind of with you though. Like, yeah, Joker was not a thing that you can easily replicate. I know it, got a lot of comparisons like Taxi Driver and
King of Comedy.
King of Comedy. But I think if we're talking about like the culture and the conditions that exist to make it a success, you're actually looking at something more like Dog Day Afternoon, which you just cannot replicate again under
And
any circumstances.
Really shouldn't. I would say one of the things that is great about Joker and Folded. And to be clear, I hate the character of the Joker. That's a whole nother hour podcast that I can get into that we need Matt Kettner for. But
Yes, we do.
I think this movie introducing Harley Quinn and the obsession that she seems to have with him, even in the trailer, replicating many of the things he did from the first movie, I think we have a foundation for a very, very good story. However, with the main point being, is it going to beat Alien Romulus? Maybe, because again, the one thing that has not been brought into the mathematics, and that's the only reason I'm breaking in, is that you have to think about the younger audience, people my age who are like, we're still super fans of Joker because it was, it was the Taxi Driver of our time, and stuff like that. So we will go see the next one, Good, Bad, Indifferent, and we may go see it again just to get a second view of it. So that's the only reason I'm saying that the mathematics there have to include the fact that the Joker movie has a lot of fans.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, here we go. This final segment of our show, and we're going to speed run this to, like just a couple of these I'm done here. Ladies and gentlemen, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Well, I mean,
That's about right.
Straightforward across the board here. All critics, it's 81%. When you just go to top critics, it drops to 74. Still okay.
That's about right.
The all audience is 84. The verified audience is a negligible 86. And the AI writes, honoring its nightmarish predecessors with chest bursting at the seams. With new frights of its own, Romulus injects some fresh acid blood into one of the cinema's great horror franchises. Oy.
It's a bit much, but
Bad AI.
It's on the nose.
Spirit-
It's on the nose.
in spirit, it's not wrong. But
All right, here. Let's find a few of our friends here. MV Moorhead of Let's Have More Head. Arrgh. Though it's not it's the 1979 original, Romulus is more on the watchable end of the franchise, deliberate and creepy for the first half and nonstop in the second.
yeah, even if the second half could have used a few more breaks.
Let's see. Rendy Jones of Rendy Reviews. One of the scariest movies I've seen this year. Get the the fuck out of here. Despite being just a decent entry into the Alien. Okay, so you haven't seen many horror movies, have you there, Randy?
Yeah, that's not a genre you delve into all that often.
Let's see. Rebecca Jonsson of Talking Films. Alien Romulus is dread-inducing. Tense and scary space horror with excellent performances, a concise story, and tremendous use of practical effects.
You're almost copying PR at that point. There's a few of those points you should have phrased differently.
Yeah.
Or justified.
Ed Whitfield of the Trey Matt Kettner. Trey Dorian Price. A highly derivative copy and paste job. Fans with IQs over 88 will be insulted. Insulted, I say.
You do not speak for me, sir, first of all.
Of the Trey.
Not insulted.
Let's see here. More of our friends or wives. Who should we marry Mac off to? Mac, you want away from one of these, or a husband from one of these film critics? Here. The future Mr. Kettner, Bilge Elbury of New York Magazine, Vulture critic. Alien always marrying somebody off the show.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Don't worry about it.
Alien
Take up that much of your time.
Alien Romulus is diverting enough, but it's also instantly forgettable. Something I don't think I ever said about any other Alien film. Oh, sir, Covenant. Hello.
Covenant is instantly forgettable. Come on.
Resurrection.
I would argue Resurrection actually not quite forgettable.
Sam Adams of The Beer and Slate.com, top critic. Romulus isn't a mutation, Dorian Price. It's just inbred. And we're going to end with our good friend, honorary member of the podcast, Kevin Carve, guy at the movies. The film stays mostly fresh, though it can be hampered by some weak characters and murky cinematography. But by the time the credits rolled, I thought it was a worthy installment in the franchise, and I can see Russia from my house.
Hang on. This is one of the things I do think needs at least 20 seconds.
You have 20 seconds. Go.
There's elements of this movie that have I've been on a lighting kick recently with a lot of modern movies because they all look muddy. And because it's all generated, there's no proper lighting anymore. There's scenes in this movie that are well lit and make good use of shadow. And there's several that everything's kind of composited in a very muddy yellow tone. And it's not doing anyone any favors.
The other issue with that, Robert, is that a lot of scenes these days are also done with AR screens.
Yeah.
So you're on a sound stage, but it's like a projection screen behind you, and that does screw with your lighting because you already have the lighting bouncing off of the screen, and then you have the lighting again, like one of these, right next to you.
All right, folks, that is our review of Alien Romulus. I want to thank Mac and Dorian for coming on tonight. Always great to have you guys. You bring a lot to the podcast, and it's always an enjoyable conversation. That being said, get your plugs done in 30 seconds. Dorian Price of Wonder Pictures. If it's good, it's a wonder. Go.
Haven't changed the title yet. Yes. At Frankie Pictures. Again, if it needs to be photographed, it needs to be videoed, needs to be filmed, need to be created, give us a call. We'd like to make your dream a reality.
Matt Kettner of Boogie Night Productions. If it's good, it's porn. Go.
I don't know if I can top that. I'm not up to much lately. I'm going to get a play copy written pretty soon, and then I'll have something to plug. But until then, stay like air, folks.
Okay, we'll see you soon on the podcast. Robert, what men in tights have you been covering this week?
So for those of you who don't know, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com.
Rare form today.
You are, man. He's on.
He has been absolutely on form. We're going to have to give you a round of applause when this is all said and done.
Well, hang on. I can do that myself. Thank you, God damn it.
Wait a minute. That's masturbator. You can't do that.
If you want to, I do it all the time, baby. Hey, I got to address a comment here real quick.
Well deserved.
So Chapacity 8049 said, this was a good ass podcast. I'll be here next time. You'll go live. Thanks, guys. Thank you, sir. Thank you for hanging out with us. All right, Robert, Men in Tights, go.
So yesterday, Saturday evening, my days are screwed up. My insomnia has been acting up, and I apologize for that. Saturday, I covered UFC 305 from Perth, Australia. It was a pretty good card. The UFC had been on a weak run for quite a few events, so it was nice to have one that didn't suck. Good main event, couple of good knockouts. If you want a full breakdown, you can read my report over in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com or listen to one of my other podcasts, specifically the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which I record late Sunday evenings / early Monday mornings, depending on just how bad my insomnia is. That one this week includes a review of UFC 305, a preview of UFC on ESPN 62, which looks like it's going to suck, but I will be covering it anyway because I am a professional. And discussion of news of the week.
You're past 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Indeed. I'm a professional when I get paid. I don't get paid for this. You want to see the professional side? Give me the cash.
Fork it over.
Keep going. Don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So
I wish there was a new Men in Tights movie coming out. I have acknowledged it.
Oh my god.
indeed.
Shut up, child. You're in the back seat for a reason. Next time you'll be in the fucking trunk. Go! Like, go!
Yeah, so you can find all of that. Again, I also talked some news of the week, and there was some news worth discussing this last week. Listen to the podcast. Seriously, I pick every fight on every card. Decent record so far. I go into that on a whole segment. So check that out if you want. This week, I will be covering WWE SmackDown on Friday, which seems to be on an upswing lately, so yay. UFC event on Saturday, and I agreed to cover AEW's All something or other. I think it's All In. Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I will look. They're in Wembley Stadium, so I will be covering that and the potential last match in the career of Bryan Danielson. Which, if this is one of the greats, and I'm going to be sad to watch him go, but I hope he wins. I think he's got it in him. I don't think he's ready to quite hang it up just yet. So that's what I got this week. And next week, Beetlejuice featuring.
No, next week is The Crow.
Oh, next week's The Crow. Right. Featuring no one, just me and Mark.
Hey!
You gonna be there?
Everyone that was on this show is back next week.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You did not update the list, Mark. When I checked the calendar,
I want the updated list.
my link has not been updated on that one. I apologize, gentlemen. I look forward to you being back next week for The Crow. We'll have a good time talking about that.
Okay.
So that's where you can find me. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening. It's always a pleasure to know that there's people out there who are having a good time with us.
Last week,
very quickly, tomorrow, tune into the W2M network where we do TV party tonight for Batman, the Caped Crusader.
Okay.
Who?
I was actually going to mention that. Last week, a week ago, we did Borderlands here in the Radulich Broadcasting Network on Damn You Hollywood. On Wednesday, I discussed at length the debate between the Catholic Church and general spirituality. We also talked about the Acolyte, and Alexis cried. So
and we're all grateful that it's not getting a season 2. That's been confirmed earlier today, and there was much rejoicing.
Yeah, so there's a TV party review for the Acolyte from last Wednesday where there was 600 of us on that show. And then half of those people were on a triple feature. We looked at Tank Girl, Mystery Man, and The Rocketeer. This week, as Dorian mentioned, Alexis is hosting a review of Batman Caped Crusader, and Dorian will be joining her. And then Thursday, the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox is back. I mistakenly let Robert Cooper pick the album, so we're doing some French death metal bullshit. Alceste, La Chance de Loire. That's what happens when I let the inmates run the asylum. So, but a Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox is fun. I'm sure a good time will be had by all. Folks, thanks again for joining us here on our review of Alien Romulus. For those of you who have been leaving us comments like great show, that's what Michelle said. All of you folks, we greatly appreciate it. We love the interaction. For Matt Kettner, for Dorian Price, for Robert Winfree, I need to get off this show. Be well, be safe, and behave.